She gave up her corporate job and a fat paycheck to return to her roots. She's equally at ease addressing the UN, the World Economic Forum, and her Gram Panchayat. Please welcome Chhavi Rajawat, the Sarpanch of Soda, Rajasthan. Chhavi, you spent many years in the corporate world, doing very well for yourself after your MBA. Tell me what made you make the big switch?
The villages. It wasn't my idea, honestly speaking. It wasn't something I'd even remotely dreamt or even thought about. And of course, it also had to do with the fact that it was a reserved seat for women, which meant only women could contest these elections. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the villages came to me. And I thought that I could be a facilitator, bridge the gap between the village and the government, as well as the non-government sector.
So obviously, this was not completely out of context. Can you just rewind several years and tell us about your childhood? If someone would just meet you, they would probably just call you an urban woman, and but wouldn't realize that you had a childhood that saw both worlds a lot.
That's true. So I've actually been going to my village since I was born. And every year, my family would visit the village. A major chunk of my vacations would be spent in the village. And luckily for me, because I always was an outdoorsy person, I would step out of the house in the village post-breakfast and be hopping from one house to the other, from one field to the other. Most of the people knew what kind of grub I liked. So when they knew that I was coming, they would especially make those dishes or those goodies for me. And I would just love being pampered the way I used to get pampered. The reason why I got down to doing what I'm doing is because I'd seen that over the years, from when I was a child till now, things had only gotten from bad to worse. And in spite of the fact that rural funding had increased through the government, there really wasn't much of an impact. And that's where I thought there needed to be a facilitator.
Do you feel like you use some of your corporate experience? You were in sales before you did this, so
that's true.
Do you sometimes put that little hat on? And
well, you have to have different hats all the time.
Right.
I think in any field, not just this. But yeah, it has worked to my advantage, and it has helped me a great deal to manage things better, to plan better, to make a project report. In fact, when I got elected, a lot of people thought that I was just there for the heck of it. When I went with my first project report, which was conservation of rainwater, they realized that I was very serious and I meant business. And therefore, the approach towards me, even within the government, I noticed had changed.
Was getting elected a challenge? I mean, you had other contestants, and of course, when in India, you hear the word election, and I don't know, it just sounds like a dirty process. So.
Oh, I was really, really lucky. In fact, when the villagers came to me and I did, just for the heck of it, get into this conversation, and I asked them, you want me to leave what I'm doing and come there, and how am I going to balance it out? And they said, oh, you don't have to worry about anything. We'll take care of it. You just need to come there for the meetings, and we'll do the rest. And they actually wanted to appoint me unanimously. However, they were a little disappointed when two people contested against me. But I was happy because I got to see the process up close and personal. It was a great learning for me. But frankly speaking, I didn't have to do anything. The entire campaigning was done by the villagers. I didn't have to spend a single rupee. People don't believe that. But the fact is I didn't have to. And the entire experience, in fact, was very, very overwhelming. I don't think I could even put it in words, the kind of response that there was, the expectations and the hope that was visible, especially amongst the older folks, especially the men. That was just amazing.
Where do you begin with a responsibility like this?
One had to look at every aspect, because there were issues with everything from something as simple as not having safe drinking water, which is life, to education, to economic upliftment, to infrastructure development. All of it needed to be looked into. The villages are only dependent on agriculture. And I had actually entered in 2010, that's when I got elected, into an area which had been declared as a drought hit zone. So things were even worse. But because of that, our focus then became water.
I know you have some big milestones that you have reached, but if you can tell us about what the problem was and how you tackled it.
since most of the houses in villages are mud houses, they don't really provide roofs for individual water harvesting structures. So we had to depend on what the village had always been depending on, which is the existing reservoirs or ponds. Our largest reservoir covers an area of 100 acres, so it's pretty big. Nobody in the village remembers when it was last desilted. So it's been 75 plus years that the silt has accumulated, and therefore its capacity to hold water has reduced. We decided to desilt the reservoir so that it would be able to collect more water. And for that we needed funds. So we of course first approached the government. However, the state government prohibits usage of machinery such as earth movers. But the government engineers said that even if you got your entire village together and tried to manually desilt the reservoir, you wouldn't be able to do it even in 10 years because of the hardness of the soil, the depth of the soil, and the vast expanse. And the government said, well, we're sorry, but we will not be able to, we don't have a scheme through which we can fund your project. However, they said that feel free to raise funds from outside and you can use it however you want to. So if you want to bring in earth movers, you can bring in earth movers. So I said, okay, never mind, government isn't able to help, but the corporate sector would, given that there's a corporate social responsibility, and I thought it would be a piece of cake. But I was totally surprised. The first ones that I did tap were companies which were already selling the products and services in our villages. But even those people turned around and said that your village is not in close proximity to a plant or unit. Which was surprising, because at one end you're selling to these people, but you don't want to do anything to help improve their lives. And my mother noticed that I was a little disappointed, and she asked me what happened, and I was like, they need water, and we don't have water, and I want to ensure that we are able to conserve something this monsoon. And then my family, my parents, my grandfather, chipped in the first bit, and then there were 4 of my dad's friends who contributed. There was just one outsider, and she just gave me a lot of joy and a lot of hope. And with the money that we collected, we were able to collect 20 lakhs rupees, with which we desilted 10 acres of the 100 acres. And that is the only bit which is able to hold water for the entire year in my village. It's not enough for the entire village, but at least it's something. Yes, that's the first thing that we did.
That's a big, very, very big milestone.
I like to believe so, but I still think it's just a drop in the ocean, and we're still trying to raise funds. But apart from that, I think the biggest thing, apart from, of course, also having a bank that opened up in 2011, which of course happened because I was chasing the MP for money for water, but he said, I can't help you there, but I'll give you a bank. I said, perfect. I said, give me I said, not just any other bank, but it has to be an SBI branch. And because of this, there are about 21 other villages which come to my village for the banking opportunities. There's the Kisan credit card, which was not being used, so the loans for the farmers. I'd say the biggest milestone for me was the response I've had from the villagers. Like, encroachment is supposed to be the biggest thing that nobody wants to talk about. So all that we did in the Gram Sabha was tell people that don't think of today, think beyond. Don't think just 1 or 2 years, but think of how your kids and what they're going to see in the future. And all I said was that if today they're riding 2-wheelers, tomorrow they would graduate to 4-wheelers. And Lord forbid, if you ever need an ambulance or a fire brigade, how is it going to come in if you don't have the required road width? And I wasn't really expecting anything, but the next morning, the people came to my house. They said, come and see. It gives me goosebumps just talking about it. It was just amazing how people had gone to the extent of breaking down entire walls of their houses to provide the required road width. And that is something, and I'm speaking about that because very often I meet NGOs, people in the government, even outsiders from the private sectors who say that villagers just do not come forward to help. And the sad truth is that more often than not, people who go into villages do not try and understand what the village wants, or what the people want, what their priorities are. It is important that you understand that. You understand that they need to have a sense of ownership. And once they understand that, and once they understand you are coming in purely with the agenda of helping them and no other ulterior motive, they will go all out to support you. And that is what I saw, and that has been my biggest milestone in the village.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
So Chhavi, you're painting a picture that's quite pretty, as in there's a lot of support. I want to hear about, what were the challenges and the opposition. There has to have been some. So can you please tell us?
Well, life's not perfect, is it? I'd say the biggest challenge has been funding, which is something that I'm still fighting for. I do agree that I've received a lot of media coverage, and I thank media for it. But the sad part is that the issues have never really been written about. It's only about how I'm a jean-clad Sarpanch. But hello, I mean, that is not what we should be writing about. It should be about the issues, about the day-to-day problems that a villager faces. I think corruption is phase two. The first problem that we at grassroots face is the fact that the funds are not even dispersed to our panchayats. The elected representatives are not trained. We usually do not know who to go to, which department to go to, what are these schemes that exist, and how do we plan to ensure that our villages are developed. So at one level, that is one of the biggest challenge. And personally, for me, I'd say what I've noticed is that I'm someone or something that the system is not used to. So whenever there is change, there is resistance to change, which is something, of course, you have to accept. What I've been trying consistently is to make the people at the grassroots level, bureaucracy, realize is that I'm there to work with. I'm not there to question them or to be seen as a foe. But I think I've just not been able to articulate myself well enough.
What's healthcare like?
So water is instrumental. We're also working on, again, for this, I'm raising funds, trying to ensure that each and every house has a toilet. We have 880 houses. I've been able to raise funds for about 400 houses. Balance, still waiting.
Milestone.
The intake of contaminated water can hamper a child even when the child is in the mother's womb. And I've noticed in my village alone that there's a very high number of autism. Sometimes starkly visible, sometimes not until you actually start talking to the individuals. And that is why water is such a key issue. And again, sanitation kind of goes hand in hand. And I believe that in rural areas such as mine, if the water and sanitation is taken care of, about 70% of the health issues would be resolved.
I would just like you to walk us through a day of a Sarpanch. What is it like?
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. Well, what's my day like? So it begins with people pouring into my house. So in summers, say about 6:30, people are in the house, and they come into the house because, one, just to, general chitter-chatter, the news that they read that morning, then we'll discuss that, see if there's anything that the village can benefit from. Also, those people who have certain issues and they do not want to be seen in public raising those issues or complaining about someone, they prefer doing that in the house. And then the panchayat secretary comes in, so you go visit the panchayat, and then whatever paperwork, people pouring in their issues. In our EGA project, which is going on, or any other project that's happening, then you have to go and oversee that. I usually like to do that so that there's a check maintained. Then again, if there's time, then in the evening go back to the panchayat office before the secretary leaves, so that if there's any other documentation, any other issues which have come up, you sort those out. Earlier, whenever I would have time, I would, in the evening, play with the kids, teach them new games, and try and ensure that the elders and the kids had some form of interaction through games. Unfortunately, I don't get that much time anymore. And in the evening, villagers usually finish their meal by 7 p.m., post which they're in my house again. So, that's basically how my day goes. So by 10:30 is when I'm free from all of that and crash by 10:30, 11. That's my normal day.
Do you ever have a Sunday? Do you have a day off?
Oh, every day is a Monday.
Sounds like it. Yeah. Chhavi, are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you unwind?
By reading, by talking to my friends, and with music.
Your role model?
I'd say my dad and the women in my life, including my mom and both my maternal and paternal grandmom.
A bad habit?
I have to figure that out. Sometimes I can be a little lazy.
Which newspaper do you read?
Whatever I can get my hands on.
Okay, do you ever, out of curiosity, turn to page 3?
If I'm in the city, once in a while.
Okay. Yeah. Your favorite holiday destination?
I love the mountains and I love nature. So where I can get that, I think that would be my favorite destination.
An alternate career?
I think I'm pretty happy being where I am.
Lovely.
So I wouldn't trade it.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Chhavi, everybody. Chhavi Rajawat.